begin with the flag salute. Everyone please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, welcome everybody to the September 23rd Marion County Commission meeting. I see Commissioner Gehring walking in for the parking lot, so he'll be here in just a few seconds. But as we begin, always with public forum. So if there's anyone here from the public who would like to speak, please come to the chair and state your name.
Brian Stuckey at Gossel. This is a request for the Marion County Commission or Planning and Zoning to look into certain questions concerning wind turbines in western Marion County. I'm reading this because my email did not go through to all commissioners. Number one, population density makes wind turbines intolerable in this part of the county. The 4 townships in question are different than other parts of the county. Residences are too close and will be bothered. Number 2, negative impact on property values. One former Marion County school superintendent feared that nobody would want to move out into the areas with wind turbines, which would negatively affect the school population, possibly causing school closures. There are specific studies on property values I could quote for you. Number 3, possible groundwater contamination. A Kansas Geological Survey geologist said, "We don't have the Equus beds here, but there is a water table everywhere. Some places in western part of the county, the water table is very high as there are many springs. The excavation for concrete base construction raises water contamination concerns." 4, confirmed communication disruption. Cake TV and National Weather Service have confirmed interference with Doppler weather radar. Also, people in the Diamond Vista area have reported cell phone and internet failures around wind turbines. 5, look into why surrounding counties have had moratoriums or bans. 6, airport or airstrip shutdowns. Licensed pilots have stated that there is wind turbulence due to the wind vortex phenomenon 5 miles away from a wind turbine. Within 3 miles, it could flip over a small plane. Ripples of air turbulence can be felt 20 miles away. If turbines come into this area, it will shut down the private airstrip of licensed pilot and Cessna engineer Nathan Hebert 2 miles south of Gossel. It will also shut down the Hillsborough Airport if any turbines are placed anywhere within Liberty Township. This will also shut down the practice of crop dusting, which will concern farmers. 7, popular objection. 2 surveys have already shown an overwhelming percentage of citizens don't want wind turbines anywhere close to Gossel or in the 4 townships in question, for any reason. For some, there are values that are more important than money. Do the wishes of a few outweigh the wishes of 500? Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Next.
My name is Bertha Hebert. My husband John and I feel there is a potential for hazards and damage from wind turbines to people, our livestock, and our farm ground. We ask that you please do new studies and revise regulations before allowing any more wind turbines to be put up in Marion County.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Quentin Goer. I want to thank you again for passing the 1-year moratorium so there's time to study and research issues. In the past, I've presented information and studies that are very factual, but today I'm going to be still factual, but also more personal. I work from home several days a week, and reliable cell service is required to be able to do my job from home. More importantly, I need reliable cell service to reach emergency service if or when we need them. My wife has gone into anaphylactic shock twice in the past, so I need to know if we have an emergency, I can reach first responders when I need them. And as you know, people living in the Diamond Vista and Sunflower wind farms have major disruption with their internet and cell reception since the wind farms have come in. The Article 27 regulations vaguely say the wind farm company needs to correct the problem, but doesn't give specific time parameters or consequences for fixing communication issues. So there's no reason for NextEra or Ørsted to do so. This is a safety issue and needs to be addressed. We sent a list of concerns we have, and we also have signatures from 16 more people that agree with the issues we raised. And I can give that to you after I speak. I also want to point out that at least one of the people speaking during public comment about how much money would stay in the county was by an absentee landowner. His money won't stay in the county. This goes for many of the landowners in the Sunflower Wind Farm area. Another point is that wind farm company needs to bear the cost of electric grid upgrades. This shouldn't be a cost that Flint Hills Electric or any other company should bear, which raises the cost of electricity for residents and with no benefit for them. And I also want to emphasize that new studies need to be made and not use the existing studies. I want to thank Mr. Jans for compiling the issues and thank you, commissioners, for the one-year moratorium to study these issues. Thank you.
Thank you.
He has a copy of his.
Oh, great. Appreciate that.
Just gonna have you.
I think I've got that.
Yeah, that's what I was planning to do, cause the signatures are.
Electronic.
So, yeah. Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, anyone else in the room wishing to make public comments? Anyone in the hallway?
I don't know if I could trust it or not.
And did everyone who commented put their name on the list out in the hall? Okay, thank you.
Actually, we have someone.
I read Article 27, which has, I would assume, I'm hoping it's some of the regulations, but I'm concerned that it might be all of the regulations for WEX. An overlay district is not sufficient. WEX should be required to notify the county commissioners of the boundaries that they intend to target before pursuing Marion County residents.
State your name one more time.
Oh, Alicia Weiser.
Okay.
This current wind company is still pursuing landowners in the Harvey County line. Harvey County has a full ban in place. This wind company does not respect other county commissioners. Marion County needs to finally write regulations that ensure our land, our farmers, and water sources are protected. I know that we have a natural spring not far from our property, and they're looking to put them half-mile away. That's not acceptable. You know, your water supply is going to be deteriorated very easily if there's an oil spill. Article 27 does not address oil spills properly. It talks about how it's stored on the facility and how it's transported on the facility, but not what happens when it destroys your farm ground. Who's responsible? There's no penalties. There's no time frames. It doesn't address removal of the end-of-life turbines with any wording that involves actual teeth. There should be specific designations for disposal, preferably out of state, but it seems really horrible to put that on another state as well because they don't deteriorate. They don't, you know what I'm saying. That was all that I had. I just wanted to say that I hope that you will sincerely go over all of the regulations and put some real teeth into these so that the county's protected and that you know what's going on in our county so that the citizens can also know what's going on in our county. And thank you for the one-year moratorium. Really appreciate you guys doing that. Give us enough time to look over everything and really get it going. Thank you.
Anyone else? Last call in the room. Anyone in the hallway? All right, anyone online? If you would like to make comments, unmute your mic, please, and state your name.
Good afternoon, Steve Schmidt, Marion County landowner. Just checking in with you to see if you will be deciding on the ground rules for the public meeting this evening of the 30th. Tina Spencer indicated to me on an email that you'd probably be addressing that today, and just wanted to encourage you to give us some guidance today if you could. Thank you.
I thought they were set last week.
That's what I thought.
A general guideline that mirrors planning and zoning. Okay. That's what we're gonna.
Yeah, that's what the commission decided last week, so hopefully we can post those this afternoon or tomorrow morning.
Okay, Steve, they'll be posted tomorrow morning, hopefully latest. Any other public comments online?
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, Steve.
All right, I think that ends public forum. We'll move into agenda approval. I would like to add an executive session on property acquisition, just to catch me up to speed.
Okay.
And then Randy, did you have something?
That's what I was gonna ask for too.
Okay.
So.
Any other changes to the agenda? If not, agenda is approved, and we've got 4 minutes. Sharon, or Ashley, you want to give us the minutes?
Yep.
We can take care of that real quick, maybe a couple other administrative.
Okay, I have the minutes of September 16.
Okay, commission's had a chance to review. Any additions or corrections?
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Garing, is there a second?
Seconded.
Second by Commissioner Crowfoot. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. I'll abstain, I wasn't there. Do I go ahead and sign even though I wasn't here? Okay. All right. We have some bills.
I have some change orders.
Oh, change order.
Being a little fat. I'm glad you got that cover sheet.
Rather to do. Let's see one.
Yeah.
And we are too. Beat 92-hour last week too.
Okay, and then next, there's some early checks, 178,544 and 21 cents.
Okay, questions?
On page 9, is there a reason why we have 2 road and bridge internet bills? Pretty close, same amount, a little different.
The shop and for the office.
I would have to pull that bill.
Yeah, I'm not sure, it could be that, could be shop, could be office. I didn't know why they were separated out if they were.
Okay, so the tablets, one for the tablets and one for their phones.
It just said,
The Verizon, is that what you're talking about?
well, no, there's a one for 264.13, one 246.07.
Those are Vive.
Yeah, both same company.
We're on that other page.
24607 and 264. I would have to pull that invoice just to see what it's for.
Check later.
Okay, I'll get it to you.
Ready to approve, or do you want to wait till we get the information?
We can go ahead and approve based on review of that.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the bills contingent upon? Motion by Commissioner Becker, is there a second? And second by Commissioner Dalkey. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed nay. Motion carried 5-0. Ashley said that.
He was just taking your name and thing. That's-
So one of those 5 bills is the internet for 1240 commercial that's split between the 3 departments. You can see the division between road and bridge, planning and zoning, and emergency management. So that total bill is basically three times that amount split. And then that other 5 bill is probably the only other one you need to check would be that one, and it's probably for the shop, yeah.
Very good. Thank you. All right, we'll postpone the rest of the administrative items till end of the session. We're at 12:45, so Sharon, if you could come up.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Shall we start with Brad's summary? How do we want to start?
Okay, so I guess we're here today because the commission is has implemented a moratorium for the planning commission to discuss certain items pertaining to renewable energy in our regulations. And I believe that Brad has prepared a memo with some of those points that have been brought up. And so I'm just looking for direction from the commission to take back to the planning commission for us to review and bring our recommendation back to your board.
Right. So our task, as Sharon said, is to come up with what items to have planning and zoning review. I guess I'm going to start with the area of focus. Are we in agreement to focus on the 4 townships? Okay. Menlo, Liberty, East and West Branch. Full consensus on
You want
that?
to do it for the full county?
What you do. If you, the other.
Go ahead. Are we doing only wind, or are you doing
That should be
solar?
my next question.
The moratorium deals with any and all renewable energy. So if you want to go ahead and include solar, it's going to be a separate element of that, and it does have, I tried to include everything, including some of the statements that were made today verbatim in this under the commentary portion of this. I still got some after 7:30 last night, I think 3 more, but they were more general in nature and didn't have a lot of the specificity that some of the earlier submissions had. I included all of those. They basically covered things that I had already prepared from other counties and minutes that I'd taken from about half dozen counties when these things were raised and they had hearings or they had meetings, that kind of thing, and produced minutes of those. That were similar in terms of scope and things that we would have the same concerns about generally in terms of the demographics and topography of the county. And then I just included that all into that list of 25 that you have currently, and then followed that with a lot of the verbatim comments, such as what Mr. Stuckey read in today, Mr. Greer read in today, and a number of others. As I said, I got, I think it was 3 that were actually written emails yet last night after 7:30. And I had about, 7 phone calls, even including some over the weekend. And I took note of all that, but I thought it was somewhat included in what you already have. So this really reflects, the memo reflects what I had already listed, but most of the citizen comments took up a lot of those issues. So I think you've got a fairly comprehensive list. Some of them we've covered before, but again, you've heard from some citizens that they think that we really need to rework some of that information to make it current. That's really a decision for you to make in terms of what you want planning and zoning to do. I'll help any way I can with a lot of gathering of information. And I've got a number of notes from other counties already, so that's where we are.
Wouldn't it be wise to include solar? I mean, otherwise, we're gonna be right back addressing that separate.
Yeah. Oh, that needs to be addressed separate, but the moratorium is what he's saying, is it covers everything.
Yeah.
That's what I mean, so.
But solar is different than wind, I mean, obviously, so we got.
We've already got solar rigs. What would you change in the solar rigs?
I don't know, just, I don't know if it needs to be reviewed, I don't know how long, you know.
They overlap to the extent that they're renewable energy, but they don't overlap in a number of ways in terms of intensity of use. Sharon can comment on that as much as I can, but in going over a bunch of them from other counties, they are apples and oranges in some ways. Because where you put those panels and the amount of usage, I mean, you're not gonna farm usually under them where you are with turbines. You can graze under the turbines. For example, those panels, they're up in the air, but until you get into certain parts of the country where wildlife migration is really a significant element of it, and not that it isn't here, but not to the same degree, where they require a certain height and you can pass under them without impeding and all of that. We don't have a lot of that, and I'll be candid, a lot of the areas in Kansas thus far have not gone to that kind of requirement. So they're different in that regard. So whether you want to try to do them together, if you do, by definition, there's going to be a significant amount of deviation between those regs.
When it comes to,
Sorry.
They're two different articles.
Yeah.
There are two different articles. The solar regs are in Article 19 currently. And I agree with Brad, they're apples and oranges. I mean, solar and wind have different environmental impacts altogether. They affect, solar facilities are in a much more compact area where wind generation takes up a lot more acreage. The uses in conjunction with solar and with wind, as far as like ag uses, are totally different. I suppose there are some ways to implement certain regulatory standards for both, but they are two different, totally separate types of uses.
And we're probably gonna have a third one fairly shortly. These battery storage systems, I'm dealing with that and learning quite a bit more than I wanted to know, I'll be candid, because we have one in Halstead that's pretty massive. And if you're talking about economic development, those things will take your breath away in terms of what the value is, and the state's still trying to figure out how they're gonna tax them.
in south of Salina also.
And those are usually, we do have the ability in several places when I looked it over in the county, they're always looking for, close to a certain type of electrical system and the transfer stations to put them, and we do have those within the county so that they may at some point be approaching us. That's becoming a real popular form of, let's store it, hold it, and especially in conjunction with renewable energy. That way when it's needed, at peak usage times, it's available.
I haven't been around one yet, but are they similar to like the data mining systems? Or are they noise producers?
No. No, they're really, honestly, fairly benign.
It's this big.
Yeah, they have marginal noise production with them, but still it's the unknown. There's a lot of you like, okay, can those things blow up? Well, no, not generally speaking, unless someone does it. But again, we're still working through what, if any, other environmental impact do they have? And they're gonna follow this. And I just can tell you already that that's becoming, and the technology continues literally in a space of 3 months to get better and more efficient, and so they're getting to a point where they're very viable.
Sharon, do we have any regulations on battery or electric storage? No.
Not on battery storage.
All right, sorry, Crowfoot, you had your hand.
Back to the wind farm.
Yes.
I thought we was gonna look at the regulations and just double check them and make sure that we're not gonna rewrite them. We're just gonna make sure they fit the project and the neighborhood.
I guess I'm hearing two
And
different,
then who's gonna pay for all these surveys that they want?
okay, I'm hearing two different, I'm hearing from a lot of the public that would like a moratorium in an area.
We got a few people, not a lot. I mean,
That's what.
there was the tail wagging the dog again.
That's what I'm hearing. But then again.
We ought to look into those questions, yes.
Right. But are you going to apply that countywide?
I think when it
Or
comes
the
to,
airports at Marion.
yeah, when it comes to population density, I think so. I mean, there's some fields there that, that Brad has listed that really should be looked at countywide, because
Can I say something about the, is there, I mean, do you want to?
Yes, I'm gonna ask you to answer the question.
So I can answer, I'm Jay Sherwood, I'm the plant manager for the Sunflower Wind Park out here. So I've worked on several wind parks. As far as the aviation is concerned, we have multiple crop dusters on multiple sites around the nation that aerial crop dust around the turbines. The only thing that we've asked the farmers, if they don't mind, is just let us know, because in the event we have a major component exchange, we got a big crane back out there. We run tag lines out in the fields. Crop dusters like to crop dust when winds are low. We have folks in the field, and if we can, we just want to eliminate that from them and not put them where they're putting our folks out there working in danger or having an incident. That's really all we request, is just give us a chance to help you in the crop duster, and if we need to stand down work, get people out of the area, then we're okay with all of that. But I've seen them, one of the plants I worked on before, for instance, that we were literally on the project and the crop duster would fly over our building every year. So.
Well, it also matters what they're applying. If they're applying a pesticide for the safety of your employees.
Yeah, and that's why anymore we typically will just remove the crew, but it'll depend on the proximity and stuff like that. But all we've asked is just to be notified so we can keep our staff out of harm's way. We're not really, if we can get them to postpone, if we're in the middle of a big pick or something like that, we might ask, but we're not opposed to working it out with whomever is operating. And then as far as somebody asked about the oil spill stuff, I mean, we're required to comply with EPA regulations. State of Kansas says you have to report any spillage that touches the ground, and there's a certain percentage of soil plus the contaminated soil that must be removed, and then it would most likely be on our pad, so we would then provide the backfill and all the material to replace whatever is removed.
All right, Sharon, bring us back on focus. Because we went from wind to solar to battery. So let's come back to wind is the priority.
We have several different layers of things going on.
Yes.
I feel like. What I felt like the general intent was when this all came to the commission was to determine whether the area near Gossel over in the western portion of the county was a possible candidate for wind expansion. And the residents in that area have expressed concern. Obviously there are folks who do want to use their land in that manner, but for the majority, we've heard that there are a lot of concerns in that area. So that's when we started talking about a specific wind overlay in that particular area, or potentially in areas that are similar to that, such as City of Marion, City of Hillsborough, City of Gospel. To completely review the entire set of regulations, some things may be beneficial or apply directly to the reasons why there are concerns for those particular areas. But I feel like we're headed in about 9 different directions right now, so I just need to know if your board wants us to look at like residential density and those types of issues in a particular area and possibly think about an overlay or overlay regulations in those specific areas. I understand that there are some people who don't want to have wind ever in Marion County. And I also understand that there are also landowners who are in favor of continuing expansion. So we have both, but the question is, where do we draw that line? Where do we protect the citizens of Marion County who are opposed to it? And how do we allow the citizens of Marion County who are in favor of using their land in that manner, which they also have the right to do? So I think that we need to find that balance, determine what those parameters are, and go from there.
Very well said.
Also, there's the citizens who don't own land or anything, but they're taxpayers that live in the eastern part of Marion County that would benefit from the tax dollars created by the wind farms on the western part. So you gotta look at all the population. There's a lot of people that's not gonna, it'll keep their taxes level, it won't make them go down ever. The county can have more money to operate on. So you got 3-4 different groups.
Another rule of thought there too. I mean, you're talking about population density. There's a lot of property values of houses out west to offset taxes for east. So I mean, it already flows that way, so.
And there's also less county services east. There's less roads, there's poor maintenance, less money spent. You go west and you have high quality roads, you have a lot more money spent.
Let's be easy there, come on now.
That's just saying the facts. So back to, I think one area we were getting some consensus on was population density. That one we can get an agreement on.
I think that's number one.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know how many
Yes.
wind farms you all have been through. I've been through lots of them.
Yes.
I've never seen one in that type of a density.
Okay, so we have an
I
agreement.
mean, there probably are, but around Kansas, you just don't see it.
So do we have an agreement to have planning and zoning investigate the potential of density, residential density? Okay, we got one down. And I noticed, to get to the next one, is there another one that the commission is top of their list? Yes, Commissioner Dalkey.
I also want to look at surrounding counties, see what they've done.
Number 5, that's a big one.
There's some around us, see what they went after, look at that. Also, the water base, that's Harvey County, I know, and that's just west of us, I mean.
Yeah, soil type. But some of that soil comes into that part of our county.
So say it's practically the same.
I mean, goes right up to Gossel. Right. Goes right up to that area. That's 2 of them that's pretty big ones with me.
Is there any opposition to those 2?
I don't have any opposition to any of them, really.
So that's 3.
One of the things you'll get into though, when you use in terms of the water sourcing and that kind of thing, having dealt with it over and over and over again in Harvey County, when you have the equisbeds, you have a groundwater management district, and that is a very different animal than what we deal with here, thank goodness. I mean, I own my ground here, and I never experienced anything like I have as the attorney for a wholesale water district over there, and the relationship between the ag sector and the various municipalities and that source of water and how it's set up and the infiltration. And then we get Wichita having kicked in some of these surrounding counties with their recharge projects, pulling from an overage that comes down the streams and re-injecting it into the equisbeds, trying to bring them back up to a certain level, and then using that as a reason to be able to pump harder out of those when they need to, like now. We're going to get into some complexity there in terms of comparing those, but I don't have an argument about trying to do that. just understand that it's never gonna be perfect in that
But
regard.
we do have Equus bid,
Yes.
because we've got 3 communities and 1 district on Equus bids.
We have watershed districts, yeah.
Yeah.
And
It's-
so they typically source the water for the concrete bases from different areas. They try not to pull from just one specific location.
But we have it on the list for planning and zoning to explore.
There's also some of these things, I will comment on 1 or 2 of them that occurred to me as I was looking through them, because it's a pretty thorough list, and a lot of people have thought through this and spent some time, and I appreciate that. Decommissioning, for example, is a big deal, and it ought to be. You're 40 years down the road when most of us are probably not gonna be around here anymore. But I've negotiated those now in 5 different settings. And part of that is contractual. It is not necessarily what we put in our regulations, but it is something that, as part of the negotiation of this whole process, we put in place that binds them actually more stridently than any regulation we can put in place, because that's contractual and directly applies to whatever development is approved.
So is decommissioning a county commission issue or a planning and zoning issue?
A little both. It's usually, by the time we get through, Sharon's always been directly involved in that as well when we negotiate on the decommissioning side. It's part of the overall agreement that we reach, very much like the road maintenance agreement, which is a separate element too. That sits there along with the original overarching contract that has the decommissioning feature in it. And if you'll recall, in the last one we did with Horsted, that was ultimately primarily self-insured because of the size of the company. You can bond it, you can use various types of letters of credit, you can do a number of things that live on through the entire process and are, at least we hope, available at the time that we do the decommissioning if they fail to follow through. And we try to set that up in such a way that it covers that cost, including your appreciation and cost factors.
So, yeah, and that's definitely something worth looking into. I was also wondering though, with the decommissioning, the county has a security that helps cover what the private leases don't cover.
That's what I was-
Kind of a gap
Yes.
insurance, if you will.
That's what I was referring to in terms of it can be, everything's from letters of credit to bonded, various types of insurance, to, if you have a company that is sufficiently well-heeled, they can go ahead and pledge. We've allowed that in some counties, that I've been involved in.
So
We adhere to.
we don't have decommissioning for private property owners who have pipeline and oil infrastructure on the ground, though.
That's really become kind of an element of these, and it's expected in everyone that I deal with on the wind energy side, quite frankly solar too, but wind energy particularly. We've got those things up in the air and somebody's got to take them down.
I know there's 20, 30 other items.
I stopped at 25, and a couple of them you'll note have some overlap, but they were treating, and I noted that in there, they were treating a concern from a different perspective depending upon what the author of that particular notation had. So I listed them both so we wouldn't miss something.
A number of the issues are actually between the landowner and the company.
Yes, that's
They're
correct.
Contractual, not planning and zoning
That's correct.
issues. The rest of them, to me, kind of fall into an environmental. Could we use an environmental as the area to investigate? And that kind of leaves it to your guidance. So we're not limiting you, not having to go through and list every item of 25 and then there's 26.
So I guess that just depends. You get into a really broad category, and they're already required to have desktop studies, tier 2 environmental studies,
Flora, fauna, bird migration.
bird strike, yeah.
Yeah.
So if there's something more specific that the board would like for us to look into,
So you'd rather keep it specific.
I mean,
More
there's.
specific we can be, the less.
There are already several checkpoints within the regulations and within the industry standard that are required, so I'm not exactly sure which environmental impacts you're more interested in that we don't already address.
And again, the list was meant to try to include everything that citizens brought to you. Some of them are already addressed. We can take a portion of them now and address them, hopefully to the satisfaction of the people that have raised them and the public at large. Because some of this was in fact addressed in exhaustive detail in some ways on the very first one, and then again on the second in more detail that we've done so far, so.
So maybe just meshing some of our current regulations and also implementing some of the more voluntary contractual obligations that the company has agreed to with Marion County. Maybe some of those things should be set in the regulations so that they're just standard requirements maybe. Because I think that the developer went above and beyond with some of those obligations and voluntarily submitted to certain environmental BMPs that were not necessarily in the regulations. Does that sound reasonable to look at?
Like I said, I don't have a problem looking at everything that was on the list. I just.
Some of that fall under Article 27.
Some of it does, and some of it was in the comprehensive development agreement.
Between county and the wind farm.
Yes.
Yes.
So it was basically set as a condition,
Yes.
just specifically for that project.
And because that deals with the specifics of the topography and demographics of a particular area, it's much more effective if done correctly than just bear in mind, our current zoning regulations and the WEX and everything is countywide. Well, there's different, as this has come up now, in terms of population density and, you know, the overall area and what's there and what isn't. In terms of environmental issues, they're each a little different. So the planning and zoning code can't be all things for all people. It needs to be a good broad base, but that contract covers a lot of these same things as they come up. So it's still useful for people in this instance to say, what about? Even though we've dealt with it to some degree in the planning and zoning code in several chapters or articles, but it's still useful for us to say, well, okay, we'll take that up as part of the overall development agreement.
When you're looking at population density, does that affect the buffer zones then too?
It
That
can.
would be, to me, that would be part of that.
And that was raised by several people, and so
Right.
what I noted there, again, one of those questions we could really answer, but you can change some things based upon just how many people you look out your kitchen window and see in terms of houses and other properties. It's very different where I'm from, clear up in that very, very corner where you don't see anything for miles versus this area. So that's significant.
Anything else? So I think we're wrapped up on wind then with the directions. Sharon, did you have any other follow-up on us?
We can talk about it again, I guess.
Yeah, I have about 5
Yeah.
specific points.
I do too.
Good.
If that's what,
I think we've got a consensus, we're on the same page of what to investigate, so
okay.
hopefully then the planning commission can take it and
It might be helpful to have maybe Sharon read back those points and make sure that you all agree and that we have something
Very good.
that's reflective of that in the commission.
as compared to Alan's notes. So-
Okay, so what I have is,
No, it's Tina's making sure we're on the same page.
Okay.
so what I have is to investigate population density and residential density to determine feasibility in those areas. Number 5 on Brad's memo, look at other county resolutions and what their reasonings were. Water usage and water quality, how the water is affected by the turbine bases, basically. Decommissioning, determine like where the gap is between landowner responsibilities in those agreements with the company, the owner, project owner, and any shortfalls that maybe the county can help fill in. And then environmental studies, mesh what is already in the existing Article 27 with some of those voluntary conditions in the expedition wind agreement, that comprehensive development agreement. And maybe some of those things just need to become part of the regulations instead of just conditions to that specific project.
And I had actually a sixth one, but that relates to what Sharon just said, contractual versus the planning and zoning regulations, because there are a number of things already that are answerable based upon, no, that will be dealt with, and it always is in the development agreement, so it would not be something we'd want to try to, in a broad-based set of regulations that applies throughout the county, or even in an overlay district, to put it there, when it's better done and negotiated in the contract to satisfy everyone.
To determine exact weigh this out, you have landowners that's still for it. You have both some large landowners that's against it and small landowners that's probably more against it than anything because of they're not gonna get nothing from it except drive through and walk through. Whereas when you get a balance of this, how do we determine that as a commission that it's either yay or a nay?
Well, that's fortunately, we have a planning and zoning commission, so they'll research, they'll have public hearings. We'll have a chance to get all that public input, review all of that input. They'll make their recommendation to us, and then that's where we get paid the big bucks to decide where that line is.
You'll also get to deal with quality of life versus economics. That's often the term that I hear in these. And that's a decision that, it's where you live. It's where they live. And it changes the landscape by definition. So power poles. I mean,
Cell towers, yeah. I mean, I think the goal is to, encourage development, but at what cost and where is that line at? We're not gonna please everyone, we know that, but try to do the best to make something middle of the road that can be the least impactful on both sides.
That help, Commissioner Dalkey?
Yeah.
just tells you it's your headache.
It comes down to.
Yeah, I've been through two of them, I understand that. But
when it gets down to these economic or environmental studies, you alluded to earlier wildlife migration. That's a whole lot different than wildlife corridors.
Right.
That part of Marion County is covered up with creek bottoms.
Mm-hmm.
Those are all wildlife corridors. So there's a night and day difference between migration routes where the geese fly through and wildlife corridors where most of the native animals live.
Yeah. One last thing.
Okay.
Because it was raised in there and it impacts you all directly. And I noted at the end of that memorandum, and say it publicly, unless you have a direct financial benefit potential in this development, not an earlier one, not another one, you don't have necessarily an absolute conflict of interest of any sort. If you own land in this and they've already approached you and you're leasing in this particular case, then we need to talk. If not, the fact that you may have even participated in an earlier one does not necessarily, granted that's a public perception issue, but it does not change your ability to be participatory in this process, which is what you're supposed to do and we're elected to do. So, if there's any other questions or you run into something where, hey, I'd like to know, do I have any kind of an issue, then let me know. But I wanted to make that general statement and I noted it in there for general guidance purposes.
I got city council, when I was on city council, I got that backbone, because we're gonna concrete the street in front of my house and I
Yeah.
wanted to abstain from it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what, you're the only one that owns land in the project area, so is that, does anyone have an issue with that as a conflict?
I'm not signing a lease.
I don't.
I don't have an opinion, I don't own land out there, so.
All right,
I do have another question, so, it was brought up, if we need to use some other, like, third-party engineers or any way to help with these studies, how would you like for me to go about that? Do you want me to?
well, you have a consultant dress and then,
I do
Depends on how
have some
far you go.
consultants, I've got some, I mean, the Cacapizo group, we have some things that are available to us already, but if there's something that you feel doesn't meet that scope and we need to go outside to get another firm to help with that,
I guess I'd ask
come
you.
back and ask.
I think if the commission knows prior, you know, then we can determine that because, you know, we don't have budgeted money
Right.
for this.
This
That was my
comes out
question.
of the planning and zoning department budget more than likely, so anything that we can do at a reduced cost or free is great, but
If it gets to a point where it's exceeding or a hardship on your budget, then let us know.
Does the state have,
Yeah.
Sharon,
$1.
does the state have a lot of information?
there is some information statewide. Some of this can be done, there's like a KU Geological website where some of this information can be found. There's also, you know, the census, we have GIS maps where we can look at this specific for this area. There's a lot of information that we can find that's available, it's readily available, it's just gonna take some time and,
Gotta know where to find it at.
right, time and effort, staff.
There are two areas already that provide some information, because I call both because I'm dealing with them with other cities and counties. There's the waste management group that I have to call periodically if there's a spill. But those are not considered major events, just small ones. And then there's the remediation group. If you've got some kind of an event where there's a significant amount of hazardous materials, and they have to come in and do a phase 1, phase 2 set of studies. And then you're on KIMES, which I don't even remember what that stands for, but I've got a membership to it, where there's a lot of defined guidance that we can get without any cost. And they're happy to take a phone call. But if you get specificity, if we come in and say, nope, we want you to go 2 miles west of Gossel and take a look at some of these things they're gonna charge us. And that fee is really dependent upon the type of project and scope of what we want.
It seems like that as long a history as there's been now with the wind industry, there ought to be history on just about everything that we've talked about.
I also found that it's publicly accessible because it's open record from a lot of these counties. Franklin has a pretty good amount of material that's in some ways dovetails into some of the questions that were asked in our case. Neosho's had some real issues and I'm representing them. And several others that we can gather some of this information from. But again, it's still general. It was in their particular circumstance. So if we then want to go ahead and make that our own, there will be money tied up in getting that done.
And some of these things are regulated at a much higher level than local.
Yeah, nationally.
You know, these oil contamination issues and things like that, there are a lot of regulations that these folks have to follow that we have no say-so in it.
Right.
You know, and we can put in our regulations that they're compliant with NERC, EPA, KDHE, KCC, I don't know who all their,
They start with KDHE in terms of being EPA's resident agent in Kansas. But yes, it goes all over the place. And then there's even private contractors, for example, in Wichita, Kansas City, that are used as agents for specific kinds of unique spills or unique contamination potential. So we have to chase that all down.
Yes.
What about the a company, not the existing company, they have a reason here, they're already here. But a new company comes in and decides to, let's say, go down where we had the problem south of 50 down in there, where the one person wanted to have a, Mr. Buller, I believe was his name. But what about actual notification to the county? Come in and wanna start. Where would that rule be? What kind of rule would we have?
Oh,
That way we don't get
I
blindsided.
wrote that down. I believe someone made that comment, just that the commission should be notified of intent before a CUP is applied for. I think that's up to the county. I think that's up to the commission as to whether that's part of the process or not.
You can tweak your current regulations to make that a mandatory form of notification if you want, and that does not overstep anyone's rights that I know of. And I do have one county I can think of that did do that because they had a blind side problem, and put that in place.
Okay, so you do have precedent.
I think that's wise, because we've not had any of that transparency from any wind farm, any leasing agent, anything from the get-go.
And it isn't necessarily something where we preclude it per se, it's basically a notification to you that, hey, we are looking at this
Yeah, I mean,
possibility.
I just-
Because they don't know either until they get here and have some ideas or even interest in allowing us to do this.
Goes for both sides.
Yeah.
Because the wind farms are private businesses.
Yes.
Okay, so if I was gonna build a new building or move a business to town, I wouldn't want everybody to know my business till
Yeah.
I was getting ready to
But
do it.
it's a little different animal because it affects the
So-
infrastructure of the county.
Principle, well, they checked out the infrastructure, I'm sure. I was gonna build a 100,000 square foot warehouse, I would make sure there was enough
You would have to go,
infrastructure.
you'd have to go apply for a building permit.
Building permit.
That's gonna be first
Not
notification.
not till I get, not while I'm looking.
Well, I
I
mean,
could buy the land and do everything before I
no,
do
you
the,
couldn't. No, you couldn't.
I could buy land.
Yeah, you can buy it, but it may not fit the.
That's still public record, it goes in the register of deeds.
Yeah, then they know what you're doing.
But you wouldn't, I mean, yeah, you could go out and lease some ground to put a building on, I guess, and then it would be a private thing.
So part of the CUP process, the instructions are that the company meet with the planning and zoning administrator prior to application. So part of that could just be part of that process. The company meet with the Board of County Commissioners prior to intent to apply for a conditional use permit.
If you want to, just for, you have a slow evening, and you want to sit and do the research, follow Tyson.
That's what I was
I've
gonna
had
say.
2 instances where they wanted to put one in or around an entity that I represented. And, you know, that kind of a chicken processing plant doesn't always meet with the greatest level of support by a surrounding property owner. And the counties responded in different ways in different locations on that. And that gives you an idea of this is how that
Yeah,
works.
that'd be a good example.
Well, that's meat packing plant, cause predominantly we have southwest winds here. And we have a feedlot southwest of Peabody, so what do we get? We get a lot of the smell, so where are they gonna put a meat packing plant if they come? And so that's why I'm saying just.
National Beef and Seaboard in the western part of the state.
Yeah, I've drove past them for a couple weeks now, that's pretty awful.
It's a little intense.
Okay, we'll bring it back to wind again. Anything else to wrap up?
I don't know where it fits, but I mean, I really like the thought of non-functioning towers. Like where is that written anywhere that they need to be back in operation, a certain timeline?
There's a provision in Article 27 that talks about if they have been not in use for, I don't wanna quote how long it is, 1 year, I believe, 12 months.
Maybe.
They're non-operational.
Yeah, that's the term.
So there's a little bit of a difference between one tower being non-operational and it's being replaced because of a malfunction versus that whole string or that whole project being out of commission basically. So,
I get the one, but if they were replacing one, then they would have a supply chain somewhere, documentation, something's coming.
yeah, and some of those can take a long time,
Yeah.
you know, so that's why I think there's a longer amount of time for that, but so there's a provision in there for if it's just completely not usable anymore. If the entire park is at the end of its life, then I think they can be 12 months without being operational before they have to begin that decommissioning phase.
And the, I don't know who did it, one of the documentary, I watched that whole thing, with an L, ours. And the gentleman that was managing at that time, I assume he's still maybe the same person, talked about problem children. They have some of these that for some reason are just like they're cursed. These things will be down and out every month for a week or 2 hours.
Sitting on the different density of the rock that they're
Yeah.
on, or something causes a vibration.
Well, yeah, that's right, because the nasal and those things, for some reason, they've got all kinds of issues.
One spot, change everything.
Yeah.
All right, anything else?
I think that's all I have. So is this official, just being in the minutes that the commission has directed
By direction,
me to?
Consensus, or do you want a motion?
you know what, yeah, after all this,
I
I'd
think
say
a
do it by motion.
I would feel better with a motion.
Yeah, I would too.
Okay. Is anyone willing to make the motion?
Motion that direct planning and zoning to address the issues bullet pointed and at least take a look and make sure that all our Article 27 is addressing the questions on the memorandum.
I would second that. Okay, motion by Commissioner Goering, second by Commissioner Dalkey. Discussion. Right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carried 5-0. I know 2 other issues were brought up as solar and battery storage. For me, battery storage is a higher priority because I know we're doing it in other counties. But I think your hands are full with this one. Focus on it and then we'll take up the others. Because that what I'm hearing is significant concern about the wind. And let's get that one tackled.
There's a 1-year moratorium, so if we get to the point where it's looking like battery storage is coming this direction, then there's always an opportunity to go back and implement regulations for that.
Because there's very high usage and very high return to the customers for like 1 meg batteries at substations, especially for our rural electrics. They can be used on peak for that 3-hour peak window and really help our customers.
Shaves it.
It's just at this point, the batteries aren't quite in the affordable range, but they're within a year, we're probably gonna be deploying them. Right now, we're using generators, so which is, that's gonna be coming. And then there's a huge difference between that and the large commercial ones. So I got off track with that one.
So did I
No,
earlier.
I think that was important to mention, and I was gonna ask that anyways, because the moratorium is for all green.
Right. Okay. Our focus. Thank you, Sharon, appreciate your
Great,
insight.
thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll move into road and bridge issues. So,
We do have a planning commission meeting. We'll put up signs. We have a meeting on October 3rd. It is for something completely different. Wind energy will not be a discussion topic on that agenda. You're welcome to come, but just so everyone knows, it will not be on that because it's already been public noticed and the agenda's already been formed. So this would more than likely be at a later October, and it'll just be discussion. There won't be any decisions made at that, obviously.
very good.
And probably a larger venue. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. All right, if we can make some room for our road people to come in. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you.
I didn't mean everyone had
Yeah.
to leave. It's exciting to hear about the road.
Roads are like what we're gonna try to address next year, I think. And some of the stuff that's ongoing.
Hi, Darren.
I'm gonna say they're better than they have been in the past.
Thank you.
We're still muddy on a gravel road. It's the only way in and out of our house.
Hey, Steve.
Hello. You gotta tell that guy that.
Yes. We had, Steve, please repeat. Please repeat.
They brought us 3 loads of gravel for a mile section. Our roads are a lot better than they used to be. But we're still mud when it rains. And it's the only way in and out of our house. So-
But they're better.
They're better?
They're better than they used to be.
That's good, that's an improvement.
Yeah.
I mean, unless you go back 20 years when we first moved in, they were really good.
All right, welcome, Steve.
Hello.
So we're gonna look at priorities for 2025.
Can I,
Sorry?
that's all right. Darren, is it okay if he just,
I just need to make
he
a
just
quick
wanted to
comment.
pop
Oh,
in
I'm
and
sorry.
say
No,
something?
it's okay.
I thought you were staying for the full
If you want me to, I will.
hours and discussion of the road.
If you would like me to, I will. Just wanted to let everybody know, last February, I don't even know where that plaque's hanging. Last February, March, we were notified by the state that we won the state award for the Kansas Road.
Yep.
We were just notified this last week we won nationals.
Wow.
That is a national award winning road for you guys. So the presentation will be, I think, in December, down in Phoenix. ACPA is giving those awards out, so just letting y'all know.
All 5.
So it's a it was a very good project. It got some very good recognition now, so. We're all supposed to go, all right?
Tina's supposed to go and take somebody.
So which one of the 5?
Somebody's gonna be able to speak
Yes,
the
draw
language.
straws.
Did you guys look at the registration? The banquet's $600.
Yeah.
Just for the banquet?
But EVH covers that. It was in their contract
I
that we
didn't
did with the national award.
You know, that's fine, because if you read the other fine print, everything is reimbursable from the county.
Yeah.
Well, not that. No, we crossed that part out at the end and initialed it. Don't you remember that?
My copy's not initialed.
Mine is.
Thank you for doing the project
Well-
and doing that, but also, are you gonna be there?
I am planning on going at this point, yes, yeah. Yeah, this is the second time that I've been fortunate enough to win a national level award for one of our projects. And the last one I couldn't because I had too much kid stuff going on. And that year was down in Florida, so I'm got it on my calendar right now. We're gonna try to make it.
December
$600 ain't bad,
Huh?
so.
You said December what?
5th, I think. It's a Thursday,
It's
December 5th.
right during KAC.
Got a big family, you're gonna pay that much for a meal.
$600 ain't that big a deal. About my classes, usually I have to take a flight and I gotta pay $1,200 and for the class. At least this thing, you're getting an award.
Like I said, thank you for you guys for actually letting us go that route with that project. We've been trying to keep an eye on it. I drive it every couple of months just to see if are we getting any cracked panels yet? Are we starting to have problems anywhere? And I haven't found any. I don't know if you guys have seen anything. No. So it's holding up very, very well.
Did it help that we did concrete on the north side of the highway too?
Well, we're not having the problem coming down off that hill. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that was always a little bit of a problem because people top the hill and they had to stop immediately right after they'd gone the downslope of a hill.
In a grain truck and it's a little heavy and all of a sudden it starts waving like this. Yeah, it's a little freaky.
Blacktop.
We need to make a toll road out of it.
Well, they got the new license plates out. We can just put one of them towers up and they can just read their tag.
Read the tag.
Cashless.
So anyway, now you can discuss your road. Wanted to let you know that was one of them.
That's good news.
So, and by the way, Steve, on 140th, Pearson guys come out probably tomorrow and take a look. Come up with a plan.
That'd be great.
I was gonna ask you a question.
Yes.
Supposedly this water pool deal we had up at Lincolnville, did you look at that?
Water pool deal.
Water was pooling down there at just off the intersection.
Oh, it's off the intersection. Okay.
We didn't do any more to it. We couldn't fix it. It's just like it was before.
Oh, okay.
There's a concrete culvert that crosses into the road. Oh, probably about, I'm gonna say half a block off the highway. And the grass on both sides over time has built up above the asphalt. And we'd had to go in there and shave off a bunch of dirt. So I need to talk to Sherry about that. It's, I guess the way we felt of it from our perspective, once we did the asphalt paving lanes, the driving lanes, anything outside that is really city responsibility.
Another thing is, and I noticed it, the slough off, kind of like when we did Nighthawk, how that material got kind of pushed down into the ditch.
We went back through and cleaned out a bunch of those spots. The spots where there's still a little bit of that that's up there is spots where we didn't have major drainage concerns. There was only one where we had a big concrete, that old concrete low water crossing that was in there. That one, we had them go back and clean that out a couple times.
Yeah, I noticed first time, Randy was complaining about that, like I was too. And I noticed some of that with this, with this operation, type of construction they did too. And so several people brought it up to me and I said, well, I think that can be handled some way.
We went back and we had them, they actually came back in with a Mini X and pulled a bunch of that material off and hauled a bunch of it away before we did a final punch list with them. So
Otherwise, I like
sure
it. I like it.
So, anything else for Darren?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, Steve, you got the spotlight.
Yeah, just, were you able to get those maps?
Yes. Yeah, we've got the maps.
I like maps.
Yes.
Awesome.
I was just kind of comparing what we've done this year to be very similar for next year, for budgetary reasons as well as just the amount of time. Pretty much the same as next year's proposal. Anyway, we tried to spread it around a little bit as far as the road gravel rebuilds. We concentrated on the major collector roads, basically the high traffic roads. So if you have an opportunity to look at that.
And they've been successful.
Yes, I mean, the rebuild projects that we're doing now, gravel rebuilds now, that's been going pretty well.
Yes.
With the exception of getting gray rock.
For the finish cap.
Right. We're still having issues with the contractor at getting it at that low price. The contractor's gonna deliver the material at their convenience. And they told me that it's better time to do it this winter when they're not so busy. So we'll end up having to do the Strasburg Road with that again, and with laying out the 400 tons of surface rock, so.
The rebuild and the base is just top notch. It's good.
We got proper drainage and everything's looking good.
That's the key.
So anyway, if you guys have looked at the chip seal and blade patching proposal for next year, we've already kind of started around the county lake at this time to get ahead of next year. As far as the West Durham Road and the Pilsen Road, those two stretches of road is gonna take a lot of blade patch material. It's gonna be the whole thing's gonna be almost solid. Okay, but then on the Middle Road and the Gossel Road, each one of those have been done last 3 years ago. And there's just starting some spots that's starting, probably like 3 spots per mile on an average. But we need to go in there and address those spots now before it gets any worse. Okay, with that discussion and being said, I mean, that's something that we can do in-house, and what we've compared to this year, I think it's doable. But I like to discuss with you guys about what we're gonna do with the East Tampa Road as well as the Canada Road. And I'd also like to schedule a contract for next year for the Indigo for crack seal. So just something to kind of plan and get done for next year. And also the possibility of doing something with the Albany Road about getting that paved, so. You guys Kinda leave me up in the air here, you just going off my recommendations, or, I mean, do we need to hire an engineering firm to look at the East Tampa Road and Canada Road? To give us some kind of direction of which way we should go on that, as far as tearing the whole thing up?
This Tampa's just a disaster. I mean, it's just an absolute disaster.
Isn't that one that got the?
Got the rebuild the same time as Nighthawk.
What do we need to do to get that to hold? I mean, it's just got so much weight going down it.
Well, there was no base to begin with. That was the thing. But, I mean, within a week, there's water.
But wouldn't it be beneficial to do what you're doing like at Olney? Like pull that all up, stabilize it, let it sit for 2-3 years, see if it gets swells.
It's not setting to it.
There's a strong lobby against that, I can tell you that.
What do you do with the traffic?
Well, no, it's Olney Road.
You're probably right.
The Olney Road still has traffic.
So I think that Steve is asking maybe permission to get an engineering firm, to maybe look to try to find an engineering firm to give advice on those three, right?
We wanna do textiles, I mean, that's been pretty common nowadays, and,
That's what you've been able to do since you've been here, is do a long-term solution on the roads. Just like the concrete one that one.
Just the road
And
rebuild.
that's gonna save the county so much money in the long term, that's not even questionable. To me, that sounds like an awesome recommendation to get it.
You could even do an RFP for the engineering if you want to for those. So for the Canada Road, you're talking about Nighthawk from,
Highway 56 to 190th.
okay,
And then the 330th from Limestone to Quail Creek, 5 miles there on that.
6
So you're looking at about 5 3/4 miles.
and 5.
okay, Highway 56 to, I'm sorry, on Nighthawk.
190th.
190th, thank you. And then did you want to do the same thing on the Olney Road, the 140th between,
No, they've already looked at that.
I know that
or do we know what needs to be done there? Because I know you guys, didn't you have a plan to do a surface on there this
we
year?
were, but we were advised by the engineering firm not to, because there was 3 spots, and at that time, the discussion was, let's see what those spots do before we do anything with it. So, I really haven't seen too many soft spots on that particular stretch of road, so I don't know.
So do we know what we're doing with it and when?
No, we don't.
So I think that might be something that needs to be figured out.
Does that stretch need engineering
I
investigation?
think it would in that one particular area where the soft spots are.
Not the whole road,
Not the
but just
whole-
the spots.
yeah.
Okay, so the engineering recommendation would be for the 5 miles, 3/4 mile, and then the spots on the all.
Yeah, it'd be a mile stretch there, and it's just 3 spots now, I think, in one particular mile.
But the other question is if that's gonna be overlaid.
Well, get the engineer's opinion,
But I mean,
and then
if it gets to the overlay, how do we pay for it?
Right.
Yeah, that's why I bring it up for discussion. I mean, if we get to a certain point to where an engineer says, hey, why don't you just come, grind it back up again, lay a bunch of crushed concrete or gravel or anything like what we did on the Ramona Road, that last mile going in there, and do that, then we can do that, let it set for a year, then see what happens with it, and then save some money later on, and then come back in the following year and blacktop it, if everything holds up. And I'm just shooting from the hip here on that one, so,
Nighthawk is still just a double chip seal, right?
yes.
I just wonder if that'd be something, that way you're not investing pavement into it. Yeah, that's down the road.
Yeah, that's a
Get
stretch.
the engineering opinion first, get the base done, then we'll tackle the surface.
14 miles.
Okay, consensus on that, any opposition to that? Getting the
I think we
information.
need to know what's going on.
Right, we gotta get the information
Nobody's
first.
dumping more assets into it.
Right. Gina, right, sound right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Is, in the meantime, is there anything that we need to do now on that stretch that has those 3 areas? Or is there are there any plans?
Well, at this point, we've been continuing to put Band-Aids on them. I mean, blade patch, hand patch, right now, we pretty well caught up in everything. I do see some more holes developing or more swelling developing, so it's kind of a good thing we didn't really go gung-ho with it, because it's continuing to deteriorate in different spots. So it isn't just one centralized area, it's pretty much the whole thing.
I will say the blade patch you put on the gravel patches, to me, has been holding up real good.
Yeah.
So the base work you did helped, but now there's new ones popping.
Right, yep.
Which you'd said from the beginning would happen.
So, yeah, I just think we get an engineer and have them give us some kind of direction which way we want to go with it, and then go from there.
Very good.
If we have to, we can go in there and spend time and, like I said, do the base work ourselves. Kind of like what we did with Quill Creek.
And would any type of a traffic study or something help on that East Tampa Road, being there's so much weight going down it all the time? I mean, you put out a counter out there, it just counts.
Well, yeah.
But the weight of everything out there is just going through the road.
Bumps.
There's scales out there.
I see that out west, whenever they have problem areas, they just start adding those little, they put a sign on the road and it says bump, and there's, they make a bump.
Rough road, bump, yeah, there are a lot of things.
Slows people down.
I don't think it's the speed so much, it's the weight.
Okay. We got the engineering work done on those roads. What next?
And as far as, like I said, the West Tampa Road and then also the Pilsen Road, like I said, it's gonna spend a lot of material, but I think we have an opportunity to save those roads. It seems they have some, especially the West Durham Road, I've looked at that, it just seems like a lot of alligator cracks, not so much base problems. There is a few here and there, but
There's really only that one area.
yeah, so.
Over toward Diamond that's got any kind of base. That road hadn't been chip sealed since 2017.
Could be, I don't.
2017. It's held up pretty good, I'd say.
And I think what's going on with the Pilsen Road, in fact, I'm pretty sure I know what's going on with that. When they came in there and did a double chip seal, after they ground up the road and turned it into a gravel road at the time to build the base, before they applied the chip seal, they came in there and didn't do a fog seal. And the fog seal adheres to the actual gravel that's there now, and also helps adhere the oil, the chip seal oil, to the surface. So you got a sandwich there of should be fog seal, which wasn't there. And then over a period of time, it's losing its adhesiveness, if you want to call it that, from the top of the gravel to the surface.
Are you talking about when we originally rebuilt that, Steve?
Yes, when I believe, I don't know who was all involved with that at the time. I kind of do, but I don't want to say any names. Anyway, it was a good idea, but it just wasn't quite.
This happens to be 12 to 15 years ago, I think.
Could be.
Is double chip seal viable if you've got a base?
I wouldn't, yeah. Well,
I'm saying if you've got a base.
It's a watershed for light traffic vehicles.
Basically, to me, in my opinion, chip seal is just something to cap and seal off moisture.
Not structure.
Not structure. No, it doesn't give any kind of support to the roads or anything like that. It just keeps things, like for instance, if we want to crack seal next year, the Indigo Road, it might be a good candidate to chip seal that road too. But I think the cracks are getting so big now that we would have to put an ample amount of oil in there to make that seal off good. So we'd be better off doing a crack seal. But the chip seal, when we do that with a lot of alligator cracks and so forth, you know what I'm talking about, that look like the back of an alligator. Chip seal will go over and give it out a nice cover and seal off everything, but it doesn't give it any support. That's why we usually blade patch prior to going in there and chip sealing. So hopefully that kind of makes sense a little bit.
We've spent that money on Nighthawk and up there. Nighthawk seems to be doing fair. I mean, I just wonder.
Also microsurfaced.
Huh?
We also microsurfaced Nighthawk too.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still come back to, it just didn't have the base. Nighthawk had a base, and then when it was ground, it had aggregate.
And so I just wonder when it's going to be time to overlay that, if you want to keep the base.
I don't want to rebuild it again.
And that's another thing that you notice up there on the East Tampa Road, the chip seal on the edges is all flaking off, where at Nighthawk, it's not at all. You know, it's the same application, except with the difference of the base. So.
With Highway 50 traffic, the other 60th, going west of Peabody has been a blessing for the people of Peabody that didn't want to go through the construction traffic on 50. They've taken the back road to 5 miles of it, and of course 2 of it's ours and 3 of it's Harvey County, but sure has been.
Popping out at East Lake Road.
Well, yeah, getting on 50.
Or Indigo.
Yeah, or Indigo, yeah. Sure has been traveled highly.
Yeah, once you explain that on Remington and Pilsen Road, you can just see where it's peeling up. It's just separating from the gravel.
And you can also see some of the hand patches that we've done in the past, 6 months ago or so, they're still holding and they're not breaking out. So that's telling me that we still have a good base there.
Right.
We just didn't have a good surface.
Yeah, it's not a base and they're not deep. It's just that.
But you have on there to blade patch and chip seal that
Right.
next year, that whole stretch.
We'll do less miles, but more per mile.
Yes.
A lot more per mile.
But then I think we'll make up, we won't be spending as much material and time on the Gossel and the middle roads because there's not as much damage there on those particular roads. So. And right now, as far as the county lake roads there, I'm glad I went out and looked at those because I'm glad we caught it now because there's a lot of places breaking out real bad.
Oh, really?
Yeah, if we had another winter like we had last winter, I think we'd be in a world of hurt out there, so. It's a good thing we're on it now. And then, I don't know, I had, speaking of rebuild projects, gravel rebuild projects. This coming, winter, I'd like to go ahead and order another 4,000 tons of the gray rock for next year and have it delivered this winter instead of waiting. So I probably need to get your guys' permission to go ahead and go out for bids on that. Tina and I have been talking about it.
Well, you don't have to write the checks till January.
You can go ahead and get the bids.
But the big thing that I wanted to discuss with you before we went out and got the bids for the gray rock was to finalize our decisions as far as the gravel rebuild roads, so I can have the stuff delivered at a better location than just the south shop.
Right.
So.
At least from my opinion, the plan looks good. Is there any opposition to Steve's plans for next year on gravel rebuilds and chip and seal, lake patch?
Promise budget holds up. We didn't raise our budget. Just a fact of life. If you don't raise it, you don't get no more.
Yeah, and that's why I was just trying to compare this year's accomplishments to next year's proposals as far as the same amount of miles and so forth. So that shouldn't change other than cost. Inflation. That's the word nowadays. Inflation.
Realistically, in a normal year, you're not gonna get any more than that done. You know, yeah, you can have a drought year again and you can get more rebuild done, but you sure can't depend on that. You might get a wet year and get half of that done.
Well, one thing we gotta keep in mind, we were very fortunate to get the prices we did for these 2-inch overlay roads that we did. So we gotta think, that was definitely a plus.
Yes. So there's a lot accomplished this year.
In your plans there, you've got it, you're gonna rent a machine to put the rock on the edge of the road? They're working on some of
Yes,
that.
in fact, 2 weeks from now is when we've got it scheduled to be here. It just goes to the front of a dump truck, and the dump truck pushes it, and it just kinda like a conveyor belt right off the shoulder. Then you just kind of broom it off to the side.
Okay.
And compact it with, just very similar to what the state does.
That'll hush up some people.
Where in specific, or is it multiple locations, or?
Well, these are the 2-inch overlay projects that we done. We need to get I call it a wedge to
Right.
keep the shoulder in there.
Right.
And keep it from pushing out.
Right.
Also too, there's some areas like, for instance, Sunflower, the corners where people have gotten off on the edges and all of a sudden and then you got water sitting there and it creates a rut and yeah, areas like that, it's a road hazard, so we'll be using that machine for those areas as well.
Roxbury Road, 340th or 330th west of 15. They're starting to get some pretty deep.
Little drop off.
Off the edge.
Yeah.
You might notice.
Mm-hmm.
Brad drives on the edge and keeps.
I usually drop off of it quite a bit.
So most likely we'll take care of the new overlay projects.
Yes, absolutely.
Our secondary will be the ones
Yes.
that we'll just do, limit to prioritize what we're doing on that, so.
Good.
I mean, kind of like it's off topic a little bit. Is there any kind of like a wish list, like eye in the sky type machine that helps with road rebuild other than just graders and the old fashioned way? Is there something out there that like you can put one guy on and just, I know. I'm not saying that I want to go blow the budget. I'm just saying it's something as much progress as he's making, I'd like to see, if you just, but it does take a certain amount of guys away from you all the time to do those things. So I just wondering if there was something out there that you could improve efficiency.
Them bow bags are expensive.
Well, I meant it's more like, is there
something for
a machine that's like a double-sided grader that pulls a road and you can go a mile at a time or have, just something that just kind of like pulled shoulders, leveled the road, did everything, and in a sweep.
If you're talking about updating or something that help us out, I would just say get us newer and updated, more equipment.
Okay.
I mean, our scraper breaks down probably once every other day, it seems like. Just things like that would help us be more efficient.
We need to update the equipment we got.
That's what
Okay, well, to follow up on Commissioner Gaines' point, which equipment is the highest priority to get replaced?
I would say at this point in time, motor graders right now. I mean, we got several other.
we started off wanting to do a rotation plan and we kind of fell off.
Dropped the ball.
Did 2 a year for a couple of years.
Well, yeah, but it was taking so long to even get one if you ordered it.
Yeah, it seems like if you go down there any given time at our shop, you'll see a motor grader sitting.
Other counties have used rotation and they're all out of the loop now too.
And trucks, dump trucks again. I mean,
there's another truck coming on pretty soon, isn't there?
Yes, yeah. In fact, it's been ordered and it's on its way, I guess. It's still gonna take a while to get the bed put on.
Let Tom bring these to us, but I just thought maybe.
I mean,
hear something from you.
It's just really hard when we're down, when we're broke down a lot. It just interrupts the rhythm of things.
That scraper's pretty old, isn't it?
Yes.
Do they
In
still
fact,
make?
no parts. It's hard to get parts.
I was gonna say, you see a lot of those things, or some of them anyway, on purple waves. I don't know if they're any good or not.
Do they still make a small one? I mean, that seems to be one of the biggest things that I've heard the guys say, that it being so smaller than the great big scrapers.
To be honest with you, I don't know what's all out there. I mean, Tom would be the expert on that, but I'm sure there is. There's gotta be. I mean, this is so old, guys, that the drivetrain for the paddles to pick up the material is stretched out so much, we actually took a link out of it and retightened it again. That's, yeah.
That's slack in it.
So.
I had a few combines that happened to me that were like that. You can actually remove links.
Well, if that's something that needs to be replaced, is that something we need to give him authority to look at?
Well, if something, you've kind of delegated that to Tom, so I mean.
Yeah, I can mention to him about it or just.
I also talked with Tom, I don't remember what day it was, about trying to look for information from different companies on trying to do something similar to at least like what we are doing with our other vehicles. And so
Oh.
he was gonna get with me on trying to come up with something like that. And then, so if he has time to look at pricing for the scraper, you know, that's something that we can work on and just bring to the board when, if, and when we get it, so.
I mean, scraper's pretty handy, and I've kind of argued that we should have been using it a lot more in the past than what we have. 'Cause it seems like our ground, every road, especially dirt, gravel roads, everything just keeps sinking because of erosion and so forth. Anyway.
And that's something you use pretty much year round, isn't it?
It could be, yes.
So it's
In
something.
fact, sometimes it's better to use it in the wintertime. It's not quite frozen yet, but it's a lot easier to pick up material like fall shoulders, so. Again, motor graders,
Big problem.
just bigger equipment.
All the shoulders, more erosion than anything.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's where you lose all your material. Just money going down the creek.
I know it's a nice piece of equipment that we have, but I also know that we've had it 3 or 4 years, maybe 5, I don't know. It's a small grader or a small dozer, and it's a nice piece of equipment when you need it. But would a scraper be more used than a small dozer?
Yes.
6-way. That's 6-way. Any chance we could? I mean, if you're not utilizing it to its full potential, can we get rid of it?
I'm just trying to I could probably count on my hand how many times we used it this year for the whole year. And we're paying
$5 piece of
payment on it.
Well, then
I
that's,
mean, wouldn't that payment be better
Actually,
utilized
real
on a
close to it, I
grader?
believe, those are,
I'd have to
I
check.
think it's getting real close to being paid off.
Yeah, I couldn't remember whether it was or not.
but still, that money could be used
If
somewhere.
we could roll that, we could turn it into a grader instead, right?
Or I think there's some contractor somewhere that, it's a beautiful piece of equipment, I mean.
Let's get something we can use, or we do use.
Capital dozer in 2019, so that's 5 years, so.
And another big, large piece of equipment that we have that we use in the summertime is our oil distributor. I mean, I'm not gonna say, it's in good shape, but.
For its age.
Yeah. I think that could be a possibility of getting rid of that and getting a bigger one. Right now, it's a 2,200 gallon tank. It'd be nice to get a 3,500 gallon tanker. Just the fact it'd be a lot more efficient as far as just saving trips down to the El Dorado to get oil, as well as when we're pulling oil off tankers. We'd only do 2 pulls versus 3 pulls, so it'd be more efficient.
There you go.
But like I said, we could probably get some money out of it now, because I'm sure probably a contractor that was in the asphalt business would particularly like to have that. And we'd probably get a good price at it. That's just something to think about as well. Again, I'm kind of talking for Tom. That's his partake, so anyway.
Wanted to hear if you had any efficiency ideas, so. So I think what you're doing is great. I just want to
Continue on.
continue it or
Well, we
make
wanna-
it better.
We wanna help.
Continue it or make it better.
I guess if there is any discussion as far as next year's proposal, as far as projects other than contractor proposals, then we'll go ahead and start planning for it, what we have on the.
Any opposition?
No.
I think it looks good.
Good deal. All right, anything else, guys?
I'd like to compliment Jeff Stenzel on that bridge job he did up on Balkan. I couldn't believe how fast he did that.
Really?
One day.
Yeah, he had it in one day and it was travel.
Blessed to have a guy who can run an excavator like that.
Pretty much. I took more time to get an engineer to look at it and tell us, yeah, we could do this.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
He had that old one out and the next one,
Yeah, he's pretty good.
Very good.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks, guys.
Got some cooler weather now.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks for reading my report. See what he, with the, or whoever read about the shoulder.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it was you.
Brad.
We already covered it.
That was enough?
That was it. That was pretty much the week.
Nice, Brad.
A lot of phone calls.
Still have a bunch more I have to report on it, so.
All right.
Administrative?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Skipped over something.
Yeah, thank
Let's
you.
go back to administrative.
And then you have that executive session that you
Yeah,
want to do.
Let's finish the administrative.
Okay, so one thing that's on the administrative business is approval for the off-system bridges, which there are 279 of them. And over the past few years, we've been, Cook Flat Strobel has been doing those. So this time, John presented to me a proposal from them for a certain amount. And then I said, well, why don't you also just check in with some others and see what they would charge? And so Cook Flat Strobel was gonna charge $99 per bridge. And again, we have 279 of those. And then he checked in with Schwab Eaton. They were at $200 a bridge. And BG said it depended on the length and it would be 125 to 150 per bridge. So Cook Flat Strobel is the best as far as their proposal. The entire proposal is $27,621. So we would just need to get approval of that and
To approve that.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Gehring, is there a second? Second by Commissioner Becker, any discussion, questions?
They've done that for us for many years now.
Well, that's, they've got a database, that's all on there too, so. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carried 5-0.
And thank you for having a checkup.
yeah, I just figure it's been a while since we've done that. It might be good to.
Yes. Appreciate that. Everybody needs to sign.
A few weeks ago, you had asked whether we have any standards of depth for utilities within the county. And so I checked with planning and zoning and road and bridge, and really, we don't have any that are stated, that are set by us, that typically it is determined by the utility companies, how deep they want to bury something. So that's what I know. So basically, best management practices, Sharon mentioned where water lines need to be installed below the frost line, sewer line installed below the water lines if they have to cross, and that was basically it. Everybody has their own standards. And what I specifically asked about were fiber optics, electrical, water, gas, and other. So that was just a follow-up, just answering the question.
Main concern was the ditches.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of, because fiber optics is pretty expensive. I mean, that's.
Not as bad as it used to be. It used to be a break your company.
Yeah.
And now it's about a $10,000 fix.
Yeah. And they used to use a lot more dozers going down when they'd install the main line going down through, but I haven't seen that lately.
Yeah, I just seen little tiny plow vibrators,
Well,
like
that's-
they might be a foot and a half deep, and but they have been riding, the ones that I've seen, they've been across the ditch, up on the fence side.
Yeah.
Trying to ride over there.
Yeah. But man, if you hit her, why?
Oh, yeah. You're gonna tick off some people. You almost can't live without it now.
So I have talked to Steve about working on some different policies next year, and one of them to improve would be like our road crossing or permit policy.
People get upset, but.
And
yeah.
so anyway, it's kind of on our radar. It's not like a immediate we'll have it done next week or something like that. But just to let you know that we don't have any existing standards other than what the utility companies
I would
operate with.
take it further than just road crossing. I would take it,
Well, right of way,
easement.
that's what we call it, whether they cross it or not. So,
I know that we only approved the crossings, we never really approved the, when they're just running down the side of the road.
actually we do, those all right of way permit. We approve them whether they cross the road or not. And then somebody had asked me about the date of the tax sale, and it's not set yet. Tina checked with the tax sale attorney. They are in the lengthy part of the court process. And so she had estimated that the date will probably be sometime in December for the sale. So there's follow-up on that.
Going back into your report, I was also reading, you had one city that you've had a, what is it, recall letter?
Yeah, well, there's been questions about
Recalls?
and so
Who will that go to? Will that go to?
it goes to Ashley, yeah.
Okay.
So she's been fielding those calls
Okay.
as well, so.
Well, your name got mentioned, and that's why I asked that. So I want to make it clear who they're going to.
Yep, that's all handled by the election officer.
There is standards that they have to meet.
Yes. And I think Ashley has provided that information to multiple people over the last few months. Yeah. Okay. And if I happen to get a question like that and answer it, then I talk with Ashley about it too, so she's aware. Let's see. I wanted to give you a quick report about some of the weather and some things that happened over the weekend from Marcy. She called me this morning, but on Friday there was of course high winds and rain. We didn't really have any major flooding issues. There was a field fire over by Florence. They think it might have been caused by lightning, but there was an explosion. A tank battery exploded, and so there's some crude oil and some cleanup that's being done, and the KDHE is coordinating that with the appropriate people. So anyway, so that did happen. The Burns area had a lot of electrical poles snapped into Butler County and kind of that area. Marcy thought that they had had at least 42 poles that were snapped in that general area, and then they had more damage in the area on Saturday. So they're waiting on reports, but those are handled by the utility companies. And then of course arts and crafts. Some of the vendors lost tents or things like that because of the wind, and most of any calls that they received were for heat related complaints, like people having problems because of the heat. So just thought I'd pass that information along to you all. And then a quick question about the payday meeting. Yes, so it's a regular meeting because it's a Monday. So, but it's also a payday meeting. And so the meeting time, I guess I need to nail down with you all of what you would like that to be. I had initially thought, since it's a regular meeting, it would be at 12:30.
I think in the past, we did change it to 9 to help with the clerk and treasurer's month-end stuff.
So what time do you want to have the meeting, and how are you, Ashley, is that it?
I'm fine at either time.
Yeah.
I'm fine with 9 o'clock.
It's fine for me.
When I looked back at the resolution, it didn't really say that. It said all regular meetings would be at, on Mondays.
But I remember we ran into it before.
Yeah, it just doesn't happen very often.
We always we went to 9 o'clock.
Okay, so you want to do it at 9 o'clock?
I'm fine with it.
Yes. Any opposition? No. I'm not hearing any opposition.
Okay.
That makes sense.
I have
If the clerk's office can get their job done.
Okay,
I had it on my calendar at 1 o'clock.
Great.
Treasures, yeah.
okay, then we'll try to both remember that moving forward. Okay. I think that was all that I had on the administration.
Up there October 31st too. No, that's.
It's October 31st.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I had it,
Thursday.
I have it,
September is at.
at 12:30 on here, but I have it at 9 o'clock on the calendar, so I'll correct my report before I post it for the public. So it'll be at 9 o'clock. So there are a couple other meeting things that we have questions about. October 10th, the leadership group would like to come and visit with you all. And that would be a Thursday, right, Ash?
Yes, that one.
At 1 o'clock, would you be open to doing a special meeting that day, October 10th, Thursday at 1 o'clock?
If I'm around.
As long as we have a. That would be good. We're gonna do the county the government day like we did before, so.
Leadership group though?
Yes.
What time did you say?
1 o'clock? So, I'm not hearing anybody say right yet, no. Okay. All right. I'm saying that's a yes.
Yes.
Okay.
This is a yay, this is a nay. Yay.
Ashley had put in your mail folder about there is the Regional County Commission meeting coming up, and it's actually gonna be in Council Grove, and what's the date on that?
Monday, October 21st.
A regular commission meeting.
Yeah, we have a regular, that day is.
Social time's at 5:30 and then dinner's at 6. But I need to let them know by October 1st if you're going.
Nothing.
Monday also?
That's a Monday, yeah. So it'd be a Monday night in Council Grove.
I'm good with that.
Got me in.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, okay.
And I might try to go if I.
Hearing it should be a better discussion than the one in Junction City.
I hope it's better than the last one.
Yeah, we hope.
Most of them have been.
Yeah.
That was an exception, not the rule.
I wasn't there, but I sure can.
Okay, and.
There was a typo for a second. Shut down pretty quick on that one.
Also, the senior citizens of Marion County is having their 64th annual meeting, their lunch. It's on October 17th. $7 registration.
And that's in Hillsborough.
Yeah, it's in Hillsborough.
This time.
17.
Thursday, right?
Thursday
Noon?
It usually
at
is.
11. Well, registration begins at 11.
And
You go for singing and
Welcome
stuff
is
like
at
that.
noon.
yeah, so it's at noon. Usually I just hand each one of them one of those.
11:30.
Yeah, if you got, even though I've been asked, since I'm a senior citizen to be able. You too.
And then usually we scan those in.
Randy, he's bored.
We can scan it in and email it to the department.
Right with you.
Oh, thanks. I'm trying to say.
Need one more, you got one.
Oh, you need one more?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Did you get one?
I passed it down. I've got it in the.
We have to fill the thing out.
Oh, good.
Beekeeper.
Ah, man.
Not Norm no more.
Not having music, huh? Not having music.
Registration deadline is the 7th of October, so.
Yeah, I think Linnell said she's gonna pick them up on the 1st. October 1st. Or maybe it is the 7th.
I don't think I have anything else for administration.
Okay. That's it for administrative? Okay. All right, executive session on property acquisition, 15, 10?
Yeah, 10 will probably do.
I move that we recess into executive session in order to discuss preliminary acquisition of property pursuant to KSA 75-4319B. Item 6, preliminary discussion acquisition of property with the commission, Brad and Tina, for 10 minutes, 2:25 to 2:26 to 2:36. Second by Commissioner Gehring. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. Motion carries 5-0. Back at 2:36.
Okay.
All right, out of executive session, no decisions made. Any other business? If not, ready for commission comments?
Yeah. I'd like to make a suggestion that the commission correspond in writing to our legislators, again, in regards to the use of websites for legal notices, especially for the special districts.
Yeah.
That don't have much budget anyway, or those that rely on accurate information so they can set their budgets. If our administrator would be so moved to.
I've already reached out.
Well, I think we all have, but I think as a commission, I'm just suggesting, and it's up to you guys.
No, I'm good with an official one too. I already told them, man, this is it. Library's getting screwed over here.
And several other entities.
I mean, I would say that you probably, one communication that would be really good to send, it may not be exactly the same as what you're talking about, but when you're talking about the revenue neutral rate process, there is no current way for an entity to, even if they follow all the steps, if the media happens to make a mistake in the publication of that, they still can't exceed under no fault of their own. And there needs to be some sort of way that in the law that allows for corrections for those kind of things, especially for the special districts.
They allowed cities to charter, so I don't know why it wouldn't be any different to allow those small districts to do something similar.
So there are two, really, I think it's two separate matters.
Yes.
One is, for sure, I think my recommendation is to send a letter for sure specific to the R&R process. And if we want to send a second letter encouraging, more flexibility for legal publications for special districts. But a lot of special districts may not have the capability to do something like that on their own, on their website, or they may not even have a website. And so, to me, that is not as high a priority as potentially trying to get some sort of a legal remedy for those entities that follow all the correct steps but have inadvertent error that's on behalf of the legal publisher.
Can we also do that to KAC? Letter or notify and ask for their support?
So, I'll draft for you all whatever you would like, but to me, it's maybe two separate issues.
Okay.
Well, when they didn't make a mistake, I just,
Right.
we gotta go to bat for them.
Yep. I would make that motion to have the administrator draft a letter to our legislators and to KAC requesting assistance on the revenue neutral rate process. First of all, some remedies when mistakes are made without their making the mistake. And the second issue being giving entities another option. What's the wording for that?
Charter.
For charter?
Second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Becker. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed nay. Motion carried 5-0. Any other commission comments?
Thanks for bringing it up. I didn't have to. So thanks for bringing it up. I didn't have to.
All right, I move to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Garing. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion carried 5-0. We are adjourned. Next meeting is Monday, the 30th at 9 a.m.
Got meeting 30.